I'd sunk every cent I owned into that BYD luxury sedan. 42 grand total. No penny from Elias's pocket. 10 grand left to me by my late grandma. 3 years of unpaid overtime bonuses. All the savings I'd set aside for our shared apartment renovation. I picked the model together with Elias. Or, at least I thought we were picking it as a team for a future life. He bragged nonstop about his insider employee discount at the automotive firm, claimed he'd locked top-tier safety smart car permissions to my phone once we finalized the handover. I trusted every word out of his mouth back then. The second we merged onto the interstate highway heading out of the dealership lot, the speed gauge plummeted from 68 miles per hour straight down to a stagnant 20 miles per hour. I slammed on the hazard lights immediately, heart hammering hard against my ribs, convinced there was a critical mechanical failure with the brand new vehicle. I dialed Elias's number without hesitation, hands shaking tight around the steering wheel as semi-trucks blared their horns inches from my rear bumper, swerving wildly to avoid slamming into my slow-moving car. His laugh crackled loud through the car Bluetooth, cold and unapologetic, no trace of concern for my safety. Lily suddenly begged to go skiing this afternoon. I couldn't let you drive too far away, or she'd never get the car to use. A massive 18-wheeler rumbled past my rear window, so close the entire frame shook, and I bit down hard to hold back a panic-induced sob. Near collision, adrenaline flooded my system, yet Elias didn't pause to acknowledge how close I'd come to a fatal crash. He just kept rambling, tone sharp with mild irritation like I was overreacting to a trivial inconvenience. Pull over onto the emergency lane right now. Luke, Lily's cousin, is driving over to pick the car up for her trip. Don't be selfish. She barely gets to enjoy herself once in a blue moon. I stared blankly at the fixed 20 miles per hour readout on the dashboard, every lingering ounce of soft, forgiving affection I'd held for Elias draining out of my chest in an instant. For 7 years, I'd catered to every single one of his demands, asked for his input on every big purchase, every vacation plan, every piece of furniture we'd ever shopped for together. I built my entire identity around waiting for his approval, but that single dangerous remote speed lock stripped every illusion clean away. I had nothing left to argue for anymore. 30 minutes later, I steered the car all the way back to the dealership service entrance, parking directly in front of the customer refund counter. I grabbed the full-signed purchase contract off the passenger seat and slid it across the marble desk to Sarah, my sales consultant who'd walked me through the entire buying process weeks prior. I want to initiate full vehicle return processing. Sarah's fingers froze mid-reach for the paperwork, her brows shooting up in shock. Miss Chloe, the vehicle's already officially transferred to your legal name. The return process involves factory inspection, lengthy administrative reviews, and a mountain of paperwork delays. Rain lashed against the glass showroom windows behind her, streaking the pavement outside. My palms still trembled nonstop, flashbacks of the semi-truck's deafening horn echoing in my ears every time I closed my eyes. I don't care how complicated the process gets. Start the paperwork today. Sarah leaned forward, voice lowered to a quiet, confidential murmur so other staff wouldn't overhear our conversation. Is there a manufacturing defect triggering speed limit malfunctions? Our service team can run a full diagnostic scan free of charge, if that's the issue. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed violently on the countertop, Elias's unread voice message notification popping front and center. I tapped play without thinking, and his annoyed, accusatory tone blared out loud across the quiet sales floor for every nearby worker to hear. Chloe, where the hell did you drive the car off to? Luke waited for you on the emergency shoulder for over an hour freezing his ass off. No sign of your vehicle. Can you not act reasonable for once? It's just a car. Why make a huge public scene over something this minor? All the surrounding sales staff paused their client consultations, turning to stare at my direction. I locked the phone screen instantly, typing 3 short, emotionless words into our chat box as a reply. Processing vehicle return. Elias's incoming call rang 2 seconds later, the ringtone shrill and unrelenting. I hit accept, holding the phone a small distance from my ear. Are you insane? I personally helped you select this vehicle with exclusive company pricing, and you're throwing it back on a whim? Do you even realize how much cash you dropped on this purchase? The full payment came out of my personal bank accounts, every dollar. A beat of silence hum on the line, then a bitter, mocking huff escaped his throat. Now you're keeping a running tab on every dollar we spend together? We bought this car to share once we tie the knot eventually. What difference does it make if Lily borrows it for one weekend ski trip? I only remotely capped your speed temporarily, not disabled the brakes or steering. You are never in actual danger. Stop blowing this out of proportion. A frigid, heavy numbness crawled up my ribcage, spreading through every limb as I recalled every lie Elias had fed me leading up to the car purchase. He was a top-tier intelligent vehicle control engineer, specialized in back-end car system access and remote command protocols. Before signing the purchase papers, he grabbed my phone under the pretense of setting up secure linked car accounts, taking full back-end ownership of every vehicle control feature without my full informed consent. Back then I thought he was just being thoughtful, handling all the complex tech setup, so I wouldn't have to struggle with complicated system menus. I pictured us loading groceries, driving his mother to her weekly lumbar physical therapy appointments, road tripping together on weekends in that car. All our future plans wrapped up in a vehicle he'd secretly built a backdoor access, key to hand off to another woman at a moment's notice. Sarah slid a steaming paper cup of water across the counter to me, and my icy fingertips brushed the warm ceramic rim, jolting me out of my spiraling thoughts. Mid-sip, a soft, fragile female voice filtered through the phone speaker, Lily, inserting herself into our argument uninvited. Elias, don't fight with Chloe over me. I can just skip the ski trip entirely. It's not a big deal. It's always such a luxury for me to get a day off to relax anyway. I don't mind staying home. Elias's entire tone softened in an instant, all the sharp irritation directed at me vanishing completely, replaced with gentle, coddling warmth reserved solely for her. Don't talk like that. I promised I'd get you access to the car, and I never break a promise to you. He switched back to addressing me, his voice dropping back to cold command. Drive the car back to my apartment immediately. Lily's non-refundable ski resort hotel deposit is already paid for. You can't ruin her whole weekend getaway over a petty tantrum. I glanced down at the signature I'd scrawled across every page of the purchase contract, each line a reminder of every sacrifice I'd made for a partnership that only existed on my side of the equation. $42,000 wasn't just a car. It was my grandma's last gift to me, years of skip vacations, nights I'd pulled overtime while Elias hung out with Lily, every penny I'd set aside to renovate the tiny apartment we were supposed to share. He tossed my safety aside without a second thought just to keep a promise to another girl. Elias, I said, my voice unnervingly flat, zero trace of the crying, begging tone I'd used for 7 years whenever we fought. When you sent that remote speed lock command on the highway, did you see the line of semi-trucks stacking up behind my vehicle? One misjudgment from any driver, and I would have been crushed. He let out an exasperated click of his tongue, dismissive of my near-death experience. You knew how to pull onto the emergency lane. That's what it's built for. If you'd been a better driver, this wouldn't have even been an issue to begin with. Suspense beat one. First major plot twist teaser. He's been siphoning money off our shared wedding account to fund Lily's luxury purchases for months without my knowledge. The glass dealership entrance door slammed open hard, a man wearing a black waterproof windbreaker stepping inside, rainwater dripping down his pant cuffs onto the tile floor. Luke, Lily's cousin, scanned the room once before locking eyes with me and marching straight over to the refund counter, ignoring Sarah standing between us entirely. Chloe, right? Hand over the car keys now. Sarah stepped forward instantly, positioning her body as a barrier between Luke and me, jaw set firm. Sir, this customer's vehicle is undergoing official return processing. I can't release the keys to a third party without her written authorization. Luke's brows crinkled with clear annoyance, crossing his arms over his chest. This is private couple's family drama. It's none of the dealership's business to meddle in. Elias's voice amplified through the phone speaker again, urgent and demanding. Luke's already there, Chloe. Just hand the keys over and stop creating a scene for random strangers to watch. Luke stretched his hand out across the counter, reaching for the key set resting beside my elbow. I curled my fingers tight around the metal fob, yanking it backward out of his reach, and stepping one pace away from the counter edge. You're really being ridiculous about this. Luke huffed, eyes rolling. Lily's got chronic poor health. She barely gets any chances to get out of the house and unwind. Why hold the vehicle hostage just to make her miserable? Before I could respond, two more figures pushed through the glass entryway, Lily wrapped in a fluffy white winter parka, raindrops clinging to the hood trim, followed closely by Elias himself, hair soaked through from running through the rain, rage burning bright in his eyes the second he spotted me at the counter. Lily's eyes welled up with manufactured tears the moment our gazes connected, her lower lip trembling like she'd been subjected to unforgivable mistreatment. I'm so sorry for all the trouble I've caused you, Chloe. I never should have asked Elias to borrow your car for the ski trip. It's all my fault. Please don't fight over this. Elias stepped forward immediately, physically positioning himself in front of Lily as if shielding her from an imagined threat, a protective gesture I'd watched him repeat hundreds of times over our 7-year relationship. College club dinners where Lily couldn't handle alcohol, he'd intercept every glass offered to her. Her rental apartment pipe burst one winter night. He'd driven 40 minutes in the rain to fix it alone at 2 a.m. She'd lost her pet cat once. He'd taken 3 unpaid days off work to comb every neighborhood park searching for it. Every single time I'd voiced hurt or frustration over his constant prioritization of her, he'd brush me off with the same tired line. She never had an older brother growing up. I just feel bad for her. Don't be so petty and jealous. Now he stood between me and the girl he'd risked my life for, ready to defend every one of her whims at my expense. Hand the keys to me, Chloe. Elias held his palm out expectantly, tone hard and unyielding. Cold wind gusted through the open door, blowing rain droplets onto my sneakers. The metal key fob dug sharp indentations into my palm, and I opened my mouth to speak, only for Lily to cut me off with a shaky, tear-streaked tone. Is this because I sat in the passenger seat once before? If that's what upset you, I'll never sit up front again, I promise. Elias's glare sharpened on me, disappointment thick in his voice. Look how distraught you've made her over a stupid car. He lunged forward suddenly, fingers wrapping around my wrist to pry the keys out of my grasp. Sarah shouted for on-site security, the second his skin made contact with mine, the noise echoing across the empty showroom. In the scuffle, Elias's knuckles scraped harshly against the wooden counter corner, a thin bead of bright red blood welling up along my wrist where he'd wrenched the keys free from my grip. Lily let out a shrill gasp at the sight of my wounded hand, yet Elias didn't spare my injury a single glance. He only stared at the car keys clutched in his palm, instantly dropping them into Lily's waiting grasp. Head out to the vehicle and wait for me by the parking lot. I'll catch up in 2 minutes. Next chapter teaser. Elias threatens to leverage his engineering company data to sabotage my vehicle return paperwork. My parents take his side over me on a phone call. Lily stages a fake medical panic attack to manipulate the crowd, and I discover my secondary credit card is being drained nonstop to cover her luxury ski resort charges. The security guards hurried over the second Sarah called them, stepping between Elias and me to block any more physical grabbing. Elias's temper spiked higher, staring at the small blood cut on my wrist like it was my fault for clinging to the keys too tight. You're really gonna call security over a simple argument between us? He crossed his arms, jaw tight, not a single glance at my stinging, scraped skin. I didn't call security for an argument, I said flat. I called it because you forced my hand open and stole property legally mine. Elias let out a bitter, hollow laugh that bounced off the showroom tile walls. Property? The car's a shared asset for our wedding. You're acting like we're already broken up over nothing. Sarah pulled out her tablet and tapped the vehicle registration document pulled up on screen, spinning it toward Elias so he could read every line in bold black print. Every line of legal ownership is under Chloe's full legal name, N.O. joint title, no cosigner listed anywhere. You have no legal right to seize or operate this vehicle without her written, signed consent. Elias's face darkened, his tone shifting sharp and hostile toward her instead of me. You don't know the first thing about automotive backend systems or our private agreement. I built the linked car account for her. I control all the internal access logs for this vehicle software. If I want to stall every return inspection file, I can reach out to my factory contacts tonight and delay this process for 6 months minimum. Sarah's shoulders tensed, but she didn't back down. Before she could fire back, my mother's contact popped up on my phone screen, ringing loud enough for everyone nearby to hear the ringtone. I hesitated only a second before hitting accept, holding the speaker button down without a word. Chloe, what on earth are you causing a scene over a car for? Mom's shrill, accusatory voice blared out instantly, no greeting, no ask if I was hurt or scared. Elias's mother just called me crying, saying you're threatening to dial police over a borrowed vehicle for Lily's ski trip. My blood ran cold. Mrs. Pei had wasted no time twisting the story to paint me as the unreasonable villain before I even got a chance to explain what happened on the highway. Mom, he remotely locked my car to 20 miles an hour on a busy interstate. Semi-trucks almost rear-ended me repeatedly. I nearly got crushed out there. There was a 2-second pause on the line, then my father's gruff voice cut over hers, unconcerned with my near-fatal collision. But nothing actually happened, right? No crash, no injuries from the highway. Why blow such a trivial fight out of proportion and drag police into it? That single sentence landed heavier than Elias's grab on my wrist. The people who were supposed to protect me only cared about avoiding embarrassment for Elias's family name, not the fact I'd been put in mortal danger for Lily's weekend getaway. Lily hovered off to the side, still wrapped in my white cashmere blanket Elias had pulled from the car's back seat for her earlier. She stepped closer to my phone speaker, voice thin and fragile as she spoke directly to my parents through the call. And Uncle, don't blame Chloe at all. It's all my fault for asking to borrow the car. I never had parents growing up, so small little trips like skiing feel like such a rare luxury to me. I know Chloe's upset with me. I'll just head home and skip the trip entirely. My mom's tone softened immediately the second Lily finished speaking, all anger toward me melting into pity for the girl she'd never even met in person. Lily, sweetie, don't cry. It's not your fault at all. That girl's always had a stubborn, hot temper. We'll talk her down once we get a hold of her later. I stood silent, watching the whole room's dynamic shift. The sales team, security, random customers lingering near the glass windows all stared at me like I was the cruel, ungrateful girlfriend throwing a fit over a poor orphan girl's small vacation wish. Elias leaned against the counter with a smug little smirk, knowing his manipulation had worked perfectly through my parents. He reached over and snatched my phone off the counter before I could pull it back, talking into the speaker in a calm, soothing tone meant to make my parents trust him completely. Don't worry, Aunt and Uncle. I'll handle this with Chloe gently. She's just overworked at her office job lately. That's why she's lashing out at everyone over tiny stuff. He hung up without letting me respond, tossing the phone back hard enough that it skidded across the marble countertop and slammed into the edge. I caught it before it hit the floor, staring at the fresh scratch marring the screen, another small casualty of his temper. Now will you drop this stupid return nonsense? He leaned in close, voice lowered, so only I could hear the threat beneath his soft tone. No one's on your side here. Your parents side with me. The dealership's manager doesn't want to risk a corporate dispute with my engineering department. You've got zero leverage to win this fight. Sarah glanced toward the back office door where the dealership manager had just stepped out, overhearing most of our argument. The manager caught Elias's eye and hurried over, pulling Sarah aside for a quiet huddle that lasted barely 30 seconds. When he returned, his expression was apologetic, but clearly trying to push me out of the building to avoid conflict with Elias's company. Miss Chloe, perhaps you two should step outside and settle this private couple's dispute off our premises first. The vehicle return inspection requires a multi-day waiting window anyway. We can circle back on the paperwork once you two have calmed your tempers. Elias smiled, victorious, turning to grab Lily's arm and lead her toward the parking lot doors. See, even the management doesn't want your drama clogging up their sales floor. Come on, Lily, we'll get the car loaded up and head to the ski resort before traffic picks up. Lily shot me a quick, fleeting glance over her shoulder as they walked out. No tears anymore, just a quiet, subtle smirk that vanished the second Elias turned his head to hold the door open for her. I caught the tiny tell of her fake vulnerability act, but before I could process the look, my phone pinged twice in rapid succession with bank transaction alerts that sent a jolt of panic through my chest. Major plot twist 1. My secondary card, which I only gave Elias to cover his mother's medical bills, was being drained for Lily's ski resort expenses. First alert. $2,800 hotel hold charged to my supplementary credit card, merchant listed as Mountain Ski Resort Lodge. Second alert. A pending $860 equipment rental charge for snowboards and designer ski gear. That secondary card wasn't supposed to be used for anything but Mrs. Pei's monthly physical therapy copays and prescription refills. I'd handed it to Elias 2 years prior when his salary got delayed for 3 straight months, covering all his mother's hospital visits out of my own pocket while he promised to pay every cent back once his project bonus cleared. The bonus had arrived months later, but instead of transferring the owed money back to my account, he'd blown the full payout on a custom designer ski suit for Lily that winter. I'd forgotten all about the supplementary card's existence until those 2 transaction notifications popped up on my screen, every small sacrifice I'd made crashing back to the forefront of my mind. I'd split rent on our shared apartment single-handedly, covered wedding deposits, paid for his birthday-tailored wool coat on an installment plan, skipped annual vacations to funnel extra cash into what I thought was our joint future, all while Elias secretly funneled every spare dollar toward Lily's luxury outings without a single thought for my finances or safety. Sarah noticed my face go pale and stepped back over, sliding a clean pack of gauze and antiseptic wipe across the counter to tend my scraped wrist. I can print a full official incident report of what just happened here on company letterhead, time-stamped with all our security camera footage attached as evidence. The manager won't admit it publicly, but I copied all the camera files to a secure private flash drive after hours last night. He didn't authorize it, so I can't hand it over today, but you can submit an official records request to corporate to retrieve full footage tomorrow morning. She leaned in even quieter, barely audible over the hum of the showroom AC. Also, your vehicle's dash cam syncs to our dealership cloud servers for the first 72 hours after delivery, per factory testing protocol. Most customers never know that, but all highway footage from today's speed lock incident is stored on our backend storage system already. Elias can't delete those cloud recordings even with his internal engineering access. Factory admin locks override all third-party engineer accounts. A flicker of hope cut through the heavy despair weighing on my chest, but I didn't have time to unpack that lead fully. I spotted Luke, Lily's cousin, leaning against the passenger side of my sedan in the parking lot, yanking the dash cam memory card out of the device and snapping it clean in half before tossing the broken plastic fragments down a storm drain on the curb. He glanced up and caught my gaze through the showroom glass, lifting a hand in a mocking little wave before climbing into the driver's seat and peeling out of the lot with Lily and Elias riding shotgun. My knees ached where I'd stumbled against the showroom step during the earlier scuffle, the fabric of my slacks scraped raw and bruised beneath the material. Sarah handed me a disposable water bottle and gestured toward the front sidewalk. Do you need a ride home? I'm clocking out in 10 minutes. I can drop you off at your apartment complex. I shook my head, pulling my jacket tight around my shoulders against the cold post-rain wind. I'll grab an Uber. Thank you for everything you've done for me today. I hailed a ride outside the glass doors, staring at the empty parking spot where my $42,000 car had sat only an hour prior, already driven away to fund Lily's ski trip at my expense. The entire drive back to the apartment I rented solely under my name, I replayed every small red flag I'd ignored over 7 years of dating Elias. Every time he'd canceled plans with me to comfort Lily, every time he'd brushed off my financial worries to splurge on her, every time my own family chose a side over mine when conflict broke out. I'd spent years asking for his input on every tiny choice I made, running outfit photos by him for approval, planning every holiday around his family's schedule, budgeting my entire paycheck around our supposed shared life together. That afternoon on the highway, when he'd locked my speed to 20 miles an hour without a second thought for my safety, something inside me snapped entirely. I stopped craving his validation, stopped begging for equal care, stopped trying to win over his family and Lily's fragile manufactured victim persona. From that moment forward, I would act only for myself, collect every shred of evidence, and reclaim every dollar and asset he'd stolen from me over our years together. When the Uber pulled up to my apartment building entrance, I dragged myself up the stairs to the front door, fumbling with the keypad passcode I'd set before Elias ever moved half his belongings into my rental unit. The second the door swung open, loud laughter drifted out from the living room, sharp and recognizable as Lily's giggling mixed with Elias's low chuckle. I stepped inside and froze at the scene laid out in front of me. Lily curled up dead center on my leather sofa, wrapped in my cream cashmere throw blanket I'd saved up 6 months to buy for winter nights, clutching the rabbit plush throw pillow I'd purchased as the very first decor piece for our planned shared home. Luke leaned against my balcony railing flicking cigarette ash directly into the ceramic planter holding the 2-year-old pothose plant my grandma had gifted me before she passed away. Elias stood at the kitchen counter-stirring a mug of spiced ginger tea, turning to face me with an irritated frown the second he registered my presence in the doorway. You're finally home? Lily got caught in the rain on the drive over and developed a low-grade fever. Go throw together a pot of congee for her to eat. I stared blankly at the mess they'd made of my home, the muddy tread of Lily's brand new ski boots smearing streaks across the hardwood floor I'd mopped that morning before heading to the dealership. I'm not cooking anything for anyone tonight. Elias's frown deepened, setting the mug down hard enough to slosh hot liquid over the rim. Don't give me that cold shoulder attitude again. You've already wasted half our day with that ridiculous car return tantrum. The least you can do is fix a simple bowl of soup for her while she's under the weather. Lily peeked out from behind the rabbit pillow, her voice soft and meek, the practiced fragile tone she used every time she wanted Elias to scold me. It's fine if Chloe doesn't want to make food. I can go somewhere else, so I don't keep upsetting her. She made no move to stand up, only gripped the throw blanket tighter around her shoulders, signaling Elias to rush to her defense. Luke stubbed out his cigarette and crossed into the living room, sneering in my direction. You're being completely unreasonable. My cousin's been miserable all day just wanting a quiet ski getaway, and you refuse to show basic hospitality in your own place. Elias stepped forward, staring me down with a hard, uncompromising gaze. Apologize to Lily for ruining her trip before we talk about anything else tonight. Next chapter teaser. Lily steals my late grandma's silver heirloom bracelet and gets it stuck on her wrist. Elias defends her and dismisses the sentimental value of the jewelry. I find a luxury diamond necklace receipt hidden in his coat pocket dated the day I visited my grandma's gravesite alone, revealing another major financial betrayal. I didn't move an inch from the entryway, my gaze sweeping every ruined detail of my apartment. Mud ski boot prints streaked the hardwood I'd mopped at dawn, cigarette ash crusted over my grandma's pothose planter, my favorite cashmere blanket wrapped tight around Lily's shoulders like it belonged to her. Elias's demand hung heavy in the air. Apologized to the girl who'd cost me a near-fatal highway crash and drained my credit card for a ski vacation. There was no remorse in any of their faces, only entitled irritation that I dared to be upset about my own stolen property and endangered life. Apologize to her? I let out a quiet, hollow laugh that made Elias's jaw clench hard. I owe zero apologies to someone who used my car, my money, and my boyfriend's attention while I almost got hit by an 18-wheeler. Lily's eyes instantly welled, the same tearful act she'd perfected over years of leaning on Elias's sympathy. She shifted on the couch, fingers brushing the small silver band tucked inside her sleeve, my grandma's last physical heirloom, handed to me on her deathbed. I'd hidden it in my nightstand drawer, wrapped in soft silk, to keep it safe from messy guests I hadn't even realized it was missing until the faint glint caught the living room lamplight. Elias followed my line of sight, immediately stepping between me and Lily to block my view, his tone sharp and dismissive before I could say a word. It's just a tiny old silver bracelet. Don't blow a fuse over something trivial. She only wanted to try it on out of curiosity. Trivial. My voice dropped low, stripped of all softness I'd carried for 7 years of dating. That's the only thing my grandma left me. And oh, jewelry, no savings, just that hand-carved silver band. You let her dig through my private drawers to steal it without asking my permission first. Lily's lower lip trembled, feigning panic as she lifted her wrist to show the band wedged tight around her bone. I didn't mean to take it, Chloe. I just thought it looked pretty when I saw it sitting out. Now it's stuck, and I can't get it off no matter how hard I pull. She twisted her wrist back and forth dramatically, fake tears spilling down her cheeks, but I caught the split-second flash of satisfaction hiding behind her watery eyes. This wasn't an accident. She'd intentionally rummaged my bedroom for sentimental items to claim as her own, knowing I'd never stand to lose my grandma's keepsake. Elias moved to her side instantly, wrapping one arm around her shoulders to soothe her, completely ignoring the raw scrape still stinging my wrist from his earlier grab at the car keys. Don't cry? Baby doll, find oil or soap to slide it off for you. No need to stress over a cheap metal trinket Chloe's throwing a fit about. Luke leaned against the wall, snorting loud enough to fill the room with disdain. It's just a beat-up old bracelet. If it's that big a deal, we can buy you a new replica from a street stall later. No reason to make Lily sob like this over garbage. The word garbage landed like a punch to my ribs. This bracelet held every memory I had of my grandma, her late-night baking sessions, the stories she told me about growing up, the final hospital visit where she pressed it into my palm and told me to keep it safe forever. To Elias and Luke, it was nothing more than worthless junk they could brush aside to comfort a girl who'd grown used to taking everything I owned without consequence. I stepped past Elias toward the bedroom nightstand, ready to grab lotion to loosen the band myself, but he blocked my path with his whole body. Stay back, I got it handled. You're only gonna scare her more if you storm over there angry. Angry? I stared him dead in the eye, cataloging every betrayal stacking one on top of the other. You remotely locked my car on the highway and nearly killed me. You let her drain my medical credit card for ski trips. You brought her and her cousin into my rental to trash every single thing I own, and now you're defending her for stealing my grandma's heirloom. When exactly do I get to have a single thing that doesn't get handed over to her? Elias's patience snapped. He raised his voice, the same harsh tone he'd never once used on Lily in 7 years. Can you stop being so self-absorbed for 5 minutes? Lily's upset. She's fragile. She never had family to spoil her like you did. Can't you just be a little more understanding for once? Suspense beat. A crumpled jewelry receipt falls out of Elias's coat pocket when he moves, dated the exact day I visited my grandma's gravesite alone. He shifted his weight to pull a bottle of hand lotion from the bathroom cabinet, and his tailored black wool coat slipped off the arm of the sofa, sliding onto the floor. A folded white receipt fluttered out of the inner pocket, landing directly at my feet. I bent down before he could lunge to snatch it away, unfolding the crumpled paper slowly. $32,000, fine custom jewelry boutique downtown. Item, snowflake diamond necklace, engraved pendant with a single character Lily. The transaction date printed bold across the top matched the exact day I'd driven an hour alone to my grandma's cemetery to lay flowers on her grave. I texted Elias that morning begging him to come with me, only to get a short reply saying his team had mandatory overtime he couldn't skip. I'd sat by the headstone alone in cold rain for 2 hours, grieving the only family member who'd ever loved me unconditionally, while he'd spent tens of thousands buying engraved diamond jewelry for the girl he prioritized above my safety and my grief. My fingers tightened around the receipt paper until the edges crinkled thin. I lifted it to hold it out for Elias to see, every line of the printed transaction proof burning into my vision. Mandatory overtime. You said, that's where you were instead of the cemetery, buying engraved diamond jewelry for her on the day I buried my grief alone. Elias's face drained of all color in an instant, panic flooding his features as he reached to rip the receipt from my grip. It's nothing, just a random gift for a friend's birthday. Don't twist it into something ugly. Random friend's birthday? I nodded toward Lily, who'd gone quiet mid-sniffle, her eyes wide with panic now that the receipt had been exposed. The pendant's carved with her named character. 32 grand spent on the day I visited my grandma's grave. You didn't work overtime that day. You lied to skip my grieving to splurge on her luxury jewelry. Lily's fake crying cut off entirely. She glanced at the receipt in my hand, then quickly buried her face against Elias's shoulder to avoid my stare, no longer able to keep up her soft, innocent act now the paper trail was laid bare for everyone to see. Elias grabbed the receipt hard, yanking it out of my hands and crumpling it into a tiny ball to toss into the kitchen trash, then like he could erase the evidence with a single movement. It's just a stupid necklace. Stop obsessing over money and gifts all the time. We've been together 7 years. Can't you let small gestures for a lonely girl slide? Small gesture? I repeated the phrase back to him, numb disbelief settling heavy in my chest. That money was supposed to go to our wedding budget, the joint account I filled single-handedly every month while you deposited pocket change once in a blue moon. You took wedding funds to buy her diamond jewelry while I mourned my grandma alone. Luke cut in from the balcony, still reeking of cigarette smoke, completely oblivious to how damning the receipt was, so he bought her a necklace. Big deal. It's not like you don't have plenty of nice stuff. Chloe, you're just jealous Lily gets any attention from him at all. Jealous. I let out a bitter, quiet laugh, glancing at the silver bracelet still stuck on Lily's wrist. I'm not jealous. I'm tired of every dollar I earn, every sentimental thing I own, every minute of safety I've being sacrificed, so she can be coddled like royalty while I get brushed off as unreasonable for being hurt. Elias had enough of the conversation, grabbing the lotion bottle and marching over to Lily's side to tend to the stuck bracelet, fully turning his back on me like my pain and all the proof of his betrayal didn't exist. He squeezed thick cream around her wrist, twisting the silver band back and forth until it slid free with a soft clink, dropping it carelessly onto the coffee table without a single glance back in my direction. Lily instantly wrapped her arms around his neck, murmuring soft thanks into his ear, the two of them ignoring me completely as if I'd vanished from the apartment entirely. I walked over to the coffee table and picked up the silver bracelet, wiping lotion residue off its carved surface with a tissue. A deep scratch marred the smooth silver metal, left behind from her yanking it on and off carelessly while playing pretend with my grandma's heirloom. My throat tightened, a sharp ache blooming behind my eyes, for the grandma who'd loved me, for the 7 years I'd wasted catering to a man who'd never valued me, for every sacrifice I'd made that amounted to nothing more than funding another woman's lavish lifestyle. I carried the bracelet back to my locked bedroom drawer, sliding it inside the silk pouch and twisting the small key tight in the lock so no one else could dig through my private belongings ever again. When I stepped back out into the living room, Elias had already shifted his full attention back to Lily, whispering soft promises of more shopping trips and cozy weekend getaways, completely unconcerned with the damage he'd done to my most precious memento. I pulled a stack of wedding invitation mock-ups from the storage closet by the door, hundreds of drafts I'd stayed up late designing for months, all the venue deposits, catering fees, and printing costs paid out of my personal income alone. I'd spent every free night picking fonts, flower arrangements, and color palettes, imagining a future that only ever existed in my head, never in Elias's plans. Elias spotted the stack of paper in my arms and frowned, finally tearing his gaze away from Lily to address me again. What are you grabbing those for? We still have the wedding to plan. Quit moping over trivial fights. I didn't answer him. Instead, I grabbed a pair of household scissors off the kitchen counter, lifting the first printed invitation sheet to the blade. The metal snip cut clean through the delicate paper, the sound sharp enough to cut through the hum of the living room lights. Major plot twist too. Elias's first instinct is to shield Lily instead of stopping me, then swats my face hard enough to leave a bruise. The second the first invitation split in half, Elias shot forward off the couch, panic flaring across his face, not because I was destroying our wedding plans, but because the sharp scissors were anywhere near Lily sitting beside him. He threw his body in front of her instantly, arms outstretched like I was a physical threat about to harm her, then lunged forward to rip the scissors out of my grip. Our hands collided mid-tug, the blade grazing his fingertips and drawing a thin line of blood on his knuckle. Instead of checking his wound or asking why I'd snapped over endless betrayal, Elias's rage exploded. He lifted one palm and swung it hard against my cheek, a loud crack echoing through the small apartment that silenced every other sound in the room. The force sent me stumbling sideways into the wall, my temple knocking against the drywall hard enough to make stars burst behind my eyes. My left cheek burned instantly, throbbing with sharp, radiating pain, my ear ringing so loud I could barely hear anything else. Lily let out a dramatic high-pitched shriek, clutching Elias's arm and burying her face against his shoulder like she'd been terrified by the scuffle, ignoring the fresh bruise blooming bright red across my cheekbone. Luke stood by the window, crossing his arms and clicking his tongue in judgment, acting as if I'd instigated the entire physical altercation by throwing a childish fit over a bracelet and a necklace receipt. Elias stared at his bloodied fingertip, then shot a furious glare at my stinging face, his voice cold and filled with unbridled disappointment, as if I was the villain in every single conflict that had unfolded that day. How could you lose your temper this far? You just pulled sharp scissors out in front of Lily and almost hurt everyone. I never thought you'd turn this violent after a few small disagreements. I leaned against the wall to steady my spinning vision, one hand pressed against my throbbing cheek, staring back at the man who'd hit me after years of me forgiving every lie, every stolen dollar, every moment he'd chosen another woman over my safety and my grief. All the lingering softness I'd held for 7 years dissolved completely in that single split second of pain. I would no longer beg for his care, no longer ask for his input on anything, no longer sacrifice a single cent or piece of myself to maintain a relationship built entirely on one-sided devotion and endless betrayal. Next chapter teaser. Elias's mother, aunt, and a pair of aunts storm my apartment to demand the $6,600 wedding deposit refund, blame me for ruining their son's future. They discover the silk diamond necklace box Lily hid in their luggage and attempt to hide the proof of the $32,000 gift. They drag a false accusation that I'm unstable and violent to spread rumors at my workplace.